Hello, friends, and welcome to the Monday Show 34. I'm your host, Wes. With me, as always, my good friend, Roots. Roots, what a hectic Monday morning, man.
I know, man. Everything was weird, but now it's all under control. We figured out what the issues were with the filming last time, so I'm happy about that. I went back in time. I'm now Christmas time before the COVID. I'm
Yeah.
happy. There's no masks anywhere. Everybody's happy. Everyone's hugging, kissing each other, and it's good times.
Holly Jolly Monday Show.
Yeah.
Roots, moving heaven and earth to make the Monday Show happen for you folks. I hope you all appreciate it. I know I do. But anyway, let's get right to it, man. This is a good one. I'm looking forward to doing this show because, we put a lot of time, and we've said it before, into that episode we did about a month ago that highlighted. It was kind of a deep dive of all the different arcade style battle racers in VR, the best ones, the good ones. And the funny thing is ever since we released that, there's been pretty much weekly updates in this area, and we thought it would be a good idea to talk about a couple of the games that have since then released into VR, and you know these are a couple of the very best one if you ask me, Roots.
Yeah, I agree. Especially the first one we're going to talk about, which we finally got you into yesterday, and it's kind of exciting. Which obviously is grip, and just warning to everybody. And we're not going to be looking at anybody puking this time. I know everybody's bummed out, but this is actual footage because, like Wes was saying, it doesn't do justice to just how good this game is. Now, Wes, what did you think of this game? What was everybody overhyping it, or was it as fun as we were saying it was?
I got maybe an hour and a half into it yesterday, but so far I'm very impressed. This is, I mean, it's clearly a flat game, right? Because you can tell from the level of depth and quality that it has that this wasn't something that was built from the ground up for VR. We're only just now starting to get VR titles that are on this level. But it's a very good looking game. Tons of track variety and just chaotic. I mean, the entire struggle here is to keep your orientation. The tracks go everywhere. There's not just one single track. The floor is a track, the walls are also tracks, the ceiling is a track. So you can hit something, or somebody could hit you with a weapon that literally sends your car flying and flipping in the air. And whatever surface you touch next, you're going to just start driving down that, which is a cool concept for a flat game, but it is a freaking mind bender in VR.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you know what really blew me away was like the first time I got blown off the track and was going off the edge and I was about to die, and there was another track below it that wasn't even the main track or the ceiling or the walls. So like that, I think that's a city one. So it's just complete chaos, and everybody's just, I mean, a couple of those tracks are so long that by the time I was like in second place and I'm like, yeah, man, I'm doing good. And then like you said, one bad thing happens and now I'm in seventh place because I'm flipping and it's just chaos. But it, to me, it's one of the best racers of this type that I've not only played in VR but played period. And I'm not even that much into racing, Wes, but I keep wanting to go back into this one, and especially against everybody. And I just want to take the time right now to throw Scion under the bus, that bastard. He just likes to kill me all the time. So he's my nemesis. But yeah, no, I'm really impressed with this game.
Yeah, we had a great time in there last night. Scion was there. Who else was there? Radio Runt and Spry Guy were in there.
Over G's, Spry Guy's brother, and then Wubby, I guess.
Wubby.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think she's a friend of Scion's, but no, it was great. And so far, that's the most I've. I think 6 or 7 is the most I've seen in there. But I'd like to get a full 10, and I'm waiting for Jarillo to get in there. I know Mamefan Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he's available, and I think we can get 10 pretty easy.
Sure. And if you're watching this right now saying, hey, man, this looks really cool, like something I'd want to participate in, first of all, you can pick this game up right now on instant-gaming.com for $2 and change. So even though it's a $30 retail price game, I mean, you can get it for beans right now. And if you want to join into our games, it's really easy. You just scroll down to the description. You'll see an invitation to our Discord there, and that's where we hook up for all of our gaming sessions. There's a channel dedicated to multiplayer gaming, and then there's a voice channel where we all just kind of party chat as we play together. So this is an arcade style battle racer from developer Caged Element. And for the most part, it's mainly arcade style racing, but there's also like a deathmatch mode as well. And I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's when the real chaos goes because they've got, I mean, some of those maps are really elaborate. Like there's one everybody loves, it's called Biodome. And you can literally drive up a ramp and drive on the ceiling, but you got to use your boost as well. And there's a quad multiplier up there. And so it's going to give you 4 times the damage, and that's why Sion's a bastard, because he likes to grab that and then he likes to hit roots with it, and it's just not cool. But no, it's the chaos of the demolition modes, and there's actually different modes as well as that. There's one that's strictly racing. There's one that mixes racing and the attacks, but it takes the attacks into consideration for who wins. So it's not necessarily who crosses the finish line first, but it also takes into consideration how much damage you've done to other people. So there's so many different modes to do this on. And look at that, they're driving up on the ceiling, Wes. That's just, I don't know, man. This one is Mamefan's nemesis, and he will be the first one to tell you anything with ice, whether it be Mario Kart or whatever, he's just not good at it. So if you want to beat Mamefan, pick this one, and you'll probably beat him every time. And that's what I plan on doing anyway.
Not me. I'm in the same boat as him. The ice levels are the ones that always get me as well. I need to be able to keep my grip on the surface there, and I don't think I've played this one yet.
No, it's cool, man, and it's look at how close that ceiling is. That I don't know. Nothing feels quite like this. Now, there was one thing you mentioned last night, and I didn't really even think about it until you mentioned it, but because it is a flat game and because it's not built from the ground up, the sense of speed isn't quite what you would think it would be in VR, like to the point of like this one, I guess, would be you'd be less likely to get sick in than say the next one we're going to talk about, where you're flipping around, because it is built from the ground up, and there's something to that. I'd never really thought about it, but so you may be safe to be able to do this in first person, even if you feel like you get sick normally, but I warn you, you may not, because one, the guy pukes on the trailer for a reason, and two, it really is, you're hitting stuff. Some of these tracks, it's not even like this. Every freaking second you're flipping around, and you nailed it. It really is about controlling your car and missing, because those little arrows on the ground, those red arrows, those flip you. So if you hit those, you're instantly going to be flipped into another track. So there's a lot of other ways to go flying up on the ceiling, besides getting hit as well.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this because as far as the gameplay of this game goes, it's fast, dude. It is lightning fast, chaotic game. And like you said, it's absolutely true. You don't really feel the speed of movement in this game the way you do in some other VR games, or even Wipeout. Wipeout wasn't built from the ground up for VR, but even though Wipeout isn't quite as fast as this is, it seems like you feel it a little more when you're playing it in your stomach. So honestly, I went all over the place in this game, and I didn't feel sick at all. And I did all 3 point of views with the car, and was literally all over the place, but nothing really, I didn't feel it like that. I think maybe, and this is just a theory of mine, it's so chaotic and you're flipping around so much. I think that you're kind of mentally in this constant state of defense against it, constantly trying to get your orientation and and figure out which way's forward. I mean, honestly, that's the whole struggle here is which way am I going now? Um, I think where you're just constantly trying to fight against the chaos, it may affect the way that you actually feel when you're playing it. But I don't know. For whatever reason, despite this being maybe the fastest game I've ever played, with the exception of maybe Polybius, um, I don't know. I just don't. I don't feel it. I fly out through the air, and I don't feel like I'm in the air. But I mean, that's probably a good thing because it would probably end my play session after about 5 minutes if I did.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's actually a good thing to not be feeling. But and you only got to, well, of course you just started, so you couldn't level like a lot of us, like Spry Guy and them, they're like level 30s and stuff. I'm like level 12. You unlock different cars as you go along. And I tried for the first time the Stinger last night. The normal one that you start out like this one is the Dominator, and that each one of them has different speeds, different ability to handle a little bit better or whatever, just like any other game. Gives you a lot of cars to unlock, and it was the first time that I actually tried a different car, and I thought it was cool because not all of them are cars. Some of them are hovercrafts. They kind of fly, or they're there's just different ways that you can do it, and each one feels a little different. And one thing I want to mention too is like the power ups. It's really cool. You get two different power ups, right, and the left one, which is your L1 and your R1. And if you hold down one of them, you can actually supercharge that power up. Like for the missiles, you can give yourself two missiles. And why that matters, especially in the demolition, is obviously you're doing more damage. But a lot of times people will think they're slick and they hit their shield and they think, and they'll even talk smack and say, you missed me. Well, yeah, no, I sent two of them at you. I didn't miss anything, and it still hits them. So it gives you a lot of versatility, and I don't know. I can't say enough about this game. It is one of the best games I've played in a long time of a genre that I'm not the biggest fan of, which is racing, and had the most amount of fun for such an amazing price. I mean, there really is no reason to not own this. Even if you don't feel like you're a racing fan like me, it's amazing. It's probably one of the funnest games I've played in a long time, especially multiplayer.
Yeah, I've got to agree with everything you said there. This is instantly among the very best of this genre in VR. Now, obviously it's going to take some time. We're going to have to see how it holds up over many, many, dozens of hours of gameplay before we can really accurately rank it, amongst the very best in the genre. But it's up there. I can already tell you that it's already in the top two or three of this style of game. It could be the best, and I'm inclined, my early impressions are to say, okay, yeah, this is the best one. But only time will tell. What I really love is I love the track diversity, first of all, more than anything. This game does a combination of what Radial G and Wipeout does, but it does what Radial G does better than Radial G does it. And I mean, that's saying something because especially Proteus is one of the best games I've played this year. But this seems to take the best from everything. You could tell they took inspiration from all of the best games of the genre and took pieces of each one and put it together into what at least at this point seems like a masterpiece of a game.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder, like, what the devs, if they planned on making this VR from the beginning, or if it was like an afterthought. Either way, like they nailed it. They did such a good job bringing this to VR, and like I said, I don't see why. I mean, I guess if you don't have VR, this would be a fun game to play, but I could never play it flat. Now that I've played it in VR, it's just so amazing in VR. But the beauty is like if you do have VR and your friend doesn't, here's another game you can play together and still have fun. And little spoiler for the friend, it's not as good for them, but they'll still enjoy it. So
Yeah, well, the thing about flat gamers who don't have VR, they don't know what they're missing. So to them, it's a great time.
yeah,
But those of us who have sets know once you go 3D gaming, there's no going back, right?
Yeah, especially in something like this. It makes me want to play it right now. And that's what's so cool about the Discord is like there every day there's somebody looking to play this game. So if I want to play it, or all I have to do is mention it, somebody's gonna say, "Oh yeah, I'll play."
Yeah, that
And there's
somebody's name is Scion.
yeah, Cyan, Radio Runt, man, they're definitely well, actually all even Spry Guy, man, they're all three of them. As soon as they hear something's going on, they're all, "Hey, I'm in." So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
well,
a
I can't
thumbs
blame
up.
him, man. This thing is fun, and I'm with you. Just watching this footage here makes me want to just go jump into it really quick and say to hell with the Monday show. These are the sacrifices that we make for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, that wasn't all that we played yesterday, man. Because when we left this, we finally got in to try some Hyperwheel Overdrive, and Roots, my first impressions. Well, first of all, let me just go ahead and say that this is available today on Steam VR. It's coming to us from developer Neon Engine, and this was another one kind of like Grip that we weren't expecting. It just kind of fell in our laps from out of nowhere, and you know, we kind of, it's took us a few weeks to get around to trying it out. But let me just say right off the bat, loading into the tutorial, loading into the arena for the first time, it's very impressive visually. The flat footage of this does it absolutely no justice. This place is massive, this arena, and I mean, we already knew coming in this is the type of game where you can turn your vehicle into a plane or a boat. This is definitely the type of arena that you can fly around in or do any number of things. But that was my first impression going in, was just how good it looked visually compared to what my expectations were.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely looks really good. And we were both kind of messing around with it for quite a while in the beginning, just trying to get the grips of how to control it, because it's being that it's two controllers. The way that they move is definitely very unique, and it's a little bit, the learning curve's a little bit steep, but you can tell that when you get to it, when you figure out exactly how to do it, it's going to be phenomenal. And I don't know. I know myself. One of the things I liked the best about it were the weapons. Just that gun you got in your hand. You'll pick up missiles. You can load missiles in there. You can load grenade in there as well. And I know you crushed me with a couple of those pretty quickly.
Yeah, man, it's pretty awesome. It's kind of like it takes a lot of different things from a lot of different game types. I wouldn't really even. I mean, there's some racing element to it, but this is a more like battle zone type game where you're in your combat vehicle, and there's different things like capture the flag and deathmatch, and then there's like stunts. I mean, you don't even have to fight in this game. There's ramps everywhere, and part of the tutorial is teaching you how to do these big 720 flips and 180 lateral spins, and there's really a lot of different things to this game. I think the main takeaway from it is exactly what you said. There's a pretty steep learning curve to it. There is a lot that you can learn to do in this game, but I feel like if enough people get into it and enough people put in the time to really get good at it, that this game is just going to be a blast.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing is just going to take the time and the patience of learning the controls, because it even now it's still a little foreign to me. But I did feel after, I think we played for like 45 minutes to an hour, I felt significantly better than I was when I walked in. But I feel like I need a couple more equal sessions to really get good. And I know the developer was even telling you that his dad plays him and is really good at it now, but it took him a while to figure out all the controls as well. And so it's just one of those things that it's going to take a little bit of patience and time and learning.
Yeah, and let me say this as well for those of you out there who are new to VR, you're going to want to take it easy in this one. This one is not like Grip. This is this is I really kind of felt like this was a game for a VR enthusiast, right? This is not a beginner game. This is one of those where you have to have some legs because man, when you get in the air and start flipping around, and trust me, you do that a lot, and not necessarily because you even mean to. There's just so many things that launch you into the air in this game, and once you're in the air, you don't stay stable on your axis. You always are turning or spinning in some sort of fashion. So it definitely puts your stomach in your throat straight away, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. No, I did seem that it seems like you can somewhat control yourself once you figure out how to, but this person's flipping all over the place. To not flip, and that's what I was trying to learn the most was like if I go up a ramp and I go up, how do I keep myself from continuing the force of what would happen in real life? So I think this has more physics of, you're on rolling wheels, like this thing, once you get going, man, you're just flipping. So,
I mean, look at that.
yeah,
That's in VR. That is freaking. I mean, it's nuts.
it is nuts. Yeah, so it's definitely the one that I want to go back into and just learn how to drive better because I know once I like we didn't even there's a classic driving mode and the pro mode, and the pro mode gives you even more control but has an even steeper learning curve. So I tried that and noped out pretty quick because I was like, man, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But it's definitely something that I want to learn how to do more, better.
I do too, and I want to get some people in there with us because that's really going to be the key here. We didn't try the bots. You can spawn bots into this thing, and I feel like once we learn how to really get good at controlling it and playing it, it'll be fun. But only if the lobby or the arena is full. You're going to need 6, 8, 10 people in here to really fill it out because this is a big place. I mean, there's levels to it, like I mean, you can see these big 150-foot high walls that you can drive up, and they kind of act as a ramp. But when you get up there, there's even more like places to go. I mean, on top of the walls. And, we spent close to an hour in this game, all in this arena, just messing around. And I don't even think we saw like half of it.
No. Well, what was funny
I didn't anyway.
Well, you kept saying like I was like still trying to figure something out, and you were up there, and you're like, oh my god, there's still more up here, and like it just seemed like no matter where you went, there was more area to get to, and just chaos. So, and the amount of actual fighting that we did was really fun. Like I said, loading up that rocket launcher or whatever, or there's a battering ram you can put on there. It's a whole bunch of different things you can do to mess with each other or jack each other up. And that's where I think it shines.
Yeah, there's tons of items. I mean, you can find things like mines, grenades, and rockets, and you just load them into your rifle that you hold. And I mean, you're literally driving and you're holding the gun, firing it, and it all works very well. There's also springs that you can find, which launch your vehicle in the air anytime you want to activate them. There's an energy shield that you can put around yourself to protect you from the other players. And then there was the plane kit, which was really cool because like as big as it is from ground level, you don't really see how big it is until you really get up in the air. And the ceiling's really tall, and you can really see the whole thing from up there. And that was when you really got the true sense of scale of how big this thing is when you get up there and you start flying.
Yeah, one thing to remember about this game, nothing's for free either. Like you don't get your wings, you don't get any. You have to find them, and then when you break your wings, like Roots, and you're smashing into stuff, you're like, oh my god, like, or even you had one. You're like, oh, no wonder why I'm spinning. I lost one of my wings. So you really have to be careful on what you're doing. And then, of course, you can take the other one off. But I just thought it was very unique, very cool. And I really hope this game does as well as I want it to, because like I said, the biggest thing that is the learning curve. If people give it enough time, I guarantee they'll like it. And then, like you said, having the lobbies full, or even just having really good bots to race against, Now you were mentioning something, and we didn't confirm for sure, but we're pretty sure there is no third person mode. We were saying that would be a good way for people to learn, or so just hoping to let the developers know, if there isn't one, we think there should be one, and maybe you can tell us why there isn't one or there shouldn't be one, but I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, I think it would definitely make the game more accessible for beginners if they could play from third person. Uh, you can, I mean, I tried to find a view switch so that I could go into third person, and the only way that I could do it was by going into spectator mode and like following you
Hmm.
or following Regulus. Or which, by the way, he was just kind of chilling out the whole time Roots and I were in there. The developer was just up on the mountain overseeing everything.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it looked good. I mean, it kind of shrunk the scale down probably to 25%. So the thing was just like this little tiny thing right in front of me. Um, but it looked cool. You know how awesome it is to play with the scale in VR, and it looked good from even that scale.
Yeah, so give us even that mode, but not spectator, and that'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be a lot less jarring when you start flipping around through the air, and I feel like you'd be able to appreciate your stunts a lot more, being able to view it from the outside. And maybe again, maybe the mode is there. I just couldn't find it. That was really, as far as changes to the game that I would make. That's really the only one major one that I would make. Would be to have a third person mode.
Yeah, I agree.
But everything looked and played very well. The 3D effect was eye popping. You could tell that this game has had a lot of time put into it, and you can tell that this is a VR game, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the first things that came out of your mouth. You said, "Wow, look at the 3D in this." It was very impressive.
Yeah, and I feel like we've only scratched the surface in it. I feel like the more time we spend in this, the more things we're going to learn about it, the better we're going to get at it, and the more fun it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, if you haven't already, check it out. Hyperwheel Overdrive, available on Steam today. All right, Roots. So that's going to bring us to our topic, and you know, we kind of it took us a minute to decide what we were going to talk about today, but after it came to me, it was just so obvious, right?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is when I went to look at your list this morning, it was obvious to me too. I was like, "Oh yeah, these are, no wonder these are all your favorites. You, no wonder why they're on your list, right?"
So with the recent announcement of Pixel Ripped 1995, the sequel to Pixel Ripped 1989, it started a conversation with us as to what Gen 1 titles would we like to get sequels to? Because obviously sequels tend to expand on everything you love about the original, and that certainly seems to be the case with Pixel Rip 1995. So we all have our favorites from the early days of VR, and we all have our list of games that we're just anxiously awaiting on sequels for. So that's what Roots and I did. We decided that I would pick five that I would like to see sequels for. He would pick five that he would like to see sequels for. And the only real rule was that they have to be Gen 1. And we defined that as being pre Asgard's Wrath, because our attitude here on the channel is that Asgard's Wrath was the title that marked the move into the next generation of software in VR. So we each picked five titles pre Asgard's Wrath that we most would like to see sequels for in the next year to 2 years. And Roots, it wasn't difficult finding five titles for me. What the difficult challenge was in putting this list together was keeping it down to just five, because I went through the like 1 through 4 like super fast, and then when it got to five, I had like 20 more titles I had to pick the last one out of, and I really what I had to do was just go head to head in my mind. All right, if both of these titles are in front of me, which one am I going for first? And I feel like I've got a pretty good list here.
Yeah, I think you do too. Actually, I was looking at your list and I was like, man, he picked all the good ones. But then I started going through the games and I had the same experience as you. I was like, oh wait, there's this one and that one and that one. And then some of them I saw, I would look at the game and I first thought was like, oh, cool, that'd be cool. And then I thought, would it be that cool? Like at some point, like I wanted to pick games that were like no brainers that people would just no brainer want to have a sequel to it. And a lot of these actually have a good chance of having sequels. Very good
Yeah.
chance, to be honest.
Yeah, I would say that most of them will probably have a sequel. There are maybe two or three of them that is questionable, but I'd say, well, there's one, damn it, one on my list, which I think is pretty much impossible that we're ever going to see a sequel to, but I had to put it on there just for that reason because I want it so mad.
Maybe we'll hear some weird news that will allow it to be in VR. But we'll see.
Yeah, I kind of feel like with that one, and we'll get to it in a few minutes. I feel like even if they were to commission a sequel, if they didn't get the same guys to do it, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, I agree.
But you know, coming up, coming into VR for the first time, I was a PlayStation VR gamer. I mean, that was what I was for the first year, and so it's really no surprise here that 4 out of my 5 titles are all PSVR exclusive. That said, I still had a difficult time because how do you not pick like Super Hot or there's so many games that didn't make the list that I would absolutely just love sequels to.
Yeah, that was one on that I almost put on my list as well. It's funny you said that. For whatever reason, something else knocked it down. But that is one that we were just talking about, Super Hot, how it probably will get a sequel now that there's finally everybody owns it. We hope. So.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't see how at this point everybody doesn't have Super Hot. I mean, good God, it's been in the top five sales for since the onset of VR. So I got to imagine that most people have it now. I mean, we tried to give it away 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't give. I mean, I've still got the key, a Steam key for Super Hot. I couldn't give it away because everybody had it already.
Yeah, we need to just drop that in the thing, or see if somebody needs it this week when we bring this up. I don't know.
Yeah, well, one giveaway at a time.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, we are giving away 4 copies of Agent of Chernobyl. So if you're interested in entering that giveaway, go see our last episode of Virtual Strangers 54 to learn how you can win that. But anyway, let's dive into these list routes. I feel like we've picked some real winners here. Some of the best VR games, even to this day. What was your first pick?
My first pick. Okay. I was this one was one.
Did you have me lined up first?
Yeah, I had you lined up, but I can go the other way. It doesn't really matter. But
we'll keep it all in line. I don't care to say it. Astrobot Rescue Mission, absolutely coming. Well, first of all, this game came to us, I think, like 2 years ago from Sony Japan Studios, PlayStation VR exclusive, the definitive VR platformer, not just on Sony, but in VR as a whole. We have not seen another platformer on this level, and we haven't seen very many VR games on this level.
yeah, hopefully Ven will be on this level. Ven, right? Isn't that the name of it? Yeah.
Yeah, Vin VR Adventure. I was going to say that. I kind of struggled with putting this on here because I kind of feel like Vin has the potential, although not a sequel to this, to be this kind of game, and all indications show that it could be on this level of quality as well.
Yeah. Well, this one, the thing that made this one different though, and this is the go-to when I talk to people, and I just talked to a customer last week about, he was saying everything had to be in first person, and for VR, at least that's what he thought. And I said, no, man, Astrobot's one of the best games you can have. And what this one does is unique is what the controller does and how you get to use it to shoot stuff, and just everything that's added on top of the traditional, platformer, right? So it that's what made this thing special. And I think the sequel, I'm pretty sure it'll drop with the PS5. I mean, I don't know that, but they've got to be working on this, and I'm psyched to see what they do with the next one
Yeah,
if it
I
comes.
think so too. When you look at the new uh, PS5 controller that they just revealed a few weeks ago, a couple of things stick out. First of all, when you talk about the way they implemented the DS4 controller into this game, just phenomenal. But when you look at the next gen controller and the next gen features it's going to have, like the updates to haptics and the triggers that have resistance, variable resistance in the triggers,
Mm.
depending on what's going on in the game. When you see new features like that, and you think about a sequel to Astrobot and how it may incorporate that stuff, it really makes you anxious to get the game in your hands. The second thing that comes to mind when I look at that new PS5 controller is how much it looks like one of these robots. I mean, it has the same color scheme, the same look to it. Uh, the new PS5 controller looks like it was pulled directly out of this game, doesn't it?
Almost makes you think it's made for when it comes out with the game, right? It'll be like a package. That would be my guess.
Exactly, and that in itself excites me, but at the same time, it makes me very afraid because I feel like if they were going to go so far as to have a special console package revolved around the sequel to Astrobot, it makes me feel like the sequel to Astrobot has a very good possibility of being a flat game, Roots.
Mm.
What if they were to come out and give us Astrobot 2, but instead of being PSVR, it's a flat game?
I would be shocked because it's just something. I mean, everybody equates this with the PlayStation VR. It'd be very weird marketing, or almost a slap in the face to the PlayStation VR people. So I don't want to believe that, Wes. And I think you should bite your tongue and wash your mouth out.
Well, what I at least think is a possibility, and I'm going to try not to drag on too long here, but this game was based off a demo on the PlayStation 4 called the Playroom VR. There's an Astrobot level that you've been able to play for years before this game even came out on a program called Playroom VR. And one of the coolest things about the level on the Playroom is you can play couch co-op on it. So the first player is in VR, the second player is playing on the television screen. So you're playing together, co-oping the levels, one player in VR, one player outside of VR. So if that's the case, and they're going to launch this onto the PS5, and they're going to want to do a flat aspect to it, I'm hoping at the very least that that's what it is, that it's going to be, you can play it either way, or you can play it both ways at the same time. I know when Astrobot came out, that was one of the only things that I found disappointing about it, was I really expected that couch co-op to carry over into the full game. I mean, there was even early box art that we saw that showed that this game was for 2 to 4 players.
Mm.
And it didn't come out that way. It came out as a single player VR experience. So they obviously scrapped it. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's what it is. And when we get the sequel, they're going to bring all that stuff back.
Yeah, it makes you think what happened, because at some point something had to have changed to where they just said, you know what, maybe it's not going to work this one. We'll get it on the next one. I don't know, but that sounds pretty cool though, especially for someone like yourself that's got little kids in there that, they want to play with daddy and they want to help you, which we all know when kids are helping us, it's not really helping us, it's hindering us. But hey, what are you going to do?
And it was really cool how they implemented it too, because the VR player had control of the level progression. The couch player was just kind of a helper, a little robot guy who flies around in this little UFO. So he's always floating around. And there are coins that are out of reach. Like the VR player can't get them. So that's what the job of the other player is, to go out, get those items, get those coins that the VR player can't get to.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, a masterpiece of a game, and one that I'm definitely looking forward to getting a sequel for. And I would say that the probability is extremely high that we get a sequel to this. I happen to know for a fact that Sony Japan Studios is working on working on a PS5 launch title right now. So hopefully this is it.
Yeah, good chance.
Anyway, Roots, you were mentioning a moment ago how people have this misconception that that VR games have to be in first person, that third person can't work. I'd like to point out that out of our 10 games that we've chosen here today, 5 of them are third person games.
Wow, and that was not intentional, right? I didn't even think about it. I just went down my list of games and looked for games that I wanted a sequel from.
Exactly. So that should tell you something about how third person works in VR. Literally half of our picks of our most wanted sequels are third person games. And your very first pick was just that. It was a third person game, right?
Yeah, and this game for me was a game I bought on a sale and didn't play it for like 3 months for some reason. And when I went into it, I was so blown away by it that I played it back to back like 2 days in a row until I finished it, which I don't do that for a lot of games. And this game is Edge of Nowhere. And if you haven't played this, it is an Oculus exclusive. So you're gonna have to revive it if you don't have an Oculus. But the story in this and the atmosphere and just everything about it was so good that I just couldn't stop playing it, Wes. It was just that good.
Yeah, this is it's hard to put a genre on this game. It's an adventure game, but there's definitely some elements of surreal horror to this game as well. And this is one of the very first examples of a AAA VR game. It's absolutely awesome. The production quality is spot on, and I feel like this game holds up even today.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I'd like to go back and play through it again. Although one thing I didn't like about this game, and this is just my own personal dealing with the story, is I wanted it to end a different way, But the ending was phenomenal. But I was like, oh, I don't know. I just that everything about this game blew me away. And like you said, if you haven't played through this game, you definitely should be playing through it. It's definitely worth the price of admission. I don't even think it's that much. I think it's like $30 or $25 or something. But definitely worth it.
It doesn't cost that much at all. And coming over from PlayStation into PC, I had no idea this game even existed. But when I went and decided to pick up my initial titles as a PC VR gamer, I picked up about 10 titles as soon as I built my computer. This was one of the first ones I picked up, mainly because I recognized Insomniac as the developer. I said, oh, okay, if these guys made that game, obviously it must be pretty good. And sure enough, it was one of the first games I played in PC VR. And I think this was the very first game I beat in PC VR. Because after I played it, it hooked me. And I played all the way through it.
Yeah. And like you said, it's got some horror elements where there's things in there, these caves and stuff, and you got to sneak around and throw things to distract them. And it's just so good. So like I said, so much so that I want to play it again, and I already know the ending. So
yeah, me too. I haven't checked it out since we've upgraded to the next gen headsets. I gotta imagine as good as it used to look. The first time I played it, I was on a CV1. I had no idea what super sampling even was at that point. I gotta imagine it would be a sight to behold under the new hardware with the new know-how that I have.
yeah, well, now you convinced me. I'm gonna have to go back and super sample the hell out of it. And now that I figured out that, oh, and by the way, if you don't know this, Google Chrome sucks, and will make a 2080 spike to the point where it's gonna mess things up. Like I just deleted that crap off my. I shouldn't have had it on there anyway, Wes. I don't know what the hell I was thinking.
Well, at least now you know the truth, Roots, and the truth, as they say, shall set you free.
Yeah, it set me free. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, again, another masterpiece of a game, Edge of Nowhere. If you haven't tried it out, what are you doing? Check it out.
Check it out.
Anyway, my second pick is one that I have mixed emotions about, Roots, because it's one of my absolutely favorite games in VR. This is my sole I mean, this is the only PC VR game on my list, if that tells you something. Uh, but I have mixed feelings about it because every time I think about a sequel to it, I get angry. Like I have this rage inside of me because there's a sequel coming to it, Roots,
I know.
but it's flat. And I'm talking, of course, about Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. This was a game that was released as a flat game from Ninja Theory, and then they kind of just like Grip and so many other games, just secretly developed VR functionality for it. And what was once a pretty good flat game became a masterpiece once you put it in VR. And I feel like this is obvious because if you look at the flat reviews and you look at the VR reviews, you can see this disconnect. And playing it and looking at it on a flat screen versus looking at it through the eyes of someone in the game, it's a world of difference, right?
Yeah. So what the hell is Microsoft doing then? Why did they waste this title by buying it and then forcing it onto flat when clearly the VR version is better? And this is one of the ones that I was talking about. You were talking about something else, but I was talking about this one. When you were mentioning about games that won't be coming to VR, maybe if Xbox ever gets their head out of their butt, or they could, Microsoft does have a presence on PC, maybe have the VR version PC only to kind of stick it to PlayStation, who had, you know what I mean? So maybe we'll get it on PC. I mean, I'm not going to hold my breath, but this game, like you said, started out flat, is one of the best visually games, stunning games in VR. Oh,
Yeah, absolutely a beautiful, beautiful game. And the really cool thing about it in VR is you can, as beautiful as it is, you can take it in from every perspective. There are experimental point of view modes in it where you can shrink everything down to tabletop mode, or you can expand it to where everything's just gigantic. Um, but as beautiful as it looks, I wouldn't call the looks of it the strength of it. The sound design in this game is groundbreaking. I mean, this is probably the best sound design for a video game that I've ever experienced. The lead character has mental issues, suffers from schizophrenia, and the way that they've done it, the way they've told the story, the way they've done the sounds in this game, it makes you feel like you're crazy at times, doesn't it?
yeah, it's weird. You're hearing all these voices whispering all the time. So much so that I was like at first kind of put off by it. I was like, man, this is like, is this demonic or something? But then I read the backstory, and then it made sense. And they actually went into great detail to make sure, like from psychiatrists and stuff, to make sure it was very legit of what somebody would be experiencing if they had schizophrenia. And it makes me think, God, I don't have schizophrenia, because I don't want people whispering stuff at me, Wes, especially when they're telling me to do weird stuff. Like it really did. It opened my eyes to how horrible it must be to have that mental illness.
Yeah, so many different voices, and at times they're all working together to pull you or push you in a certain way, and at other times they're conflicting. I mean, some of the voices will build you up and try to make you more confident, while other voices will try to tear you down and make you want to just give up. Uh, Really a phenomenal piece of storytelling, and it really just hurts me that Microsoft bought Ninja Theory and have tasked them to making a sequel to this game, but for Xbox. And then the head of Xbox is so, avowed, heavily anti VR. Um, at the same time, I'm still holding out hope, Roots. I'm holding out hope that the PC release will have some VR functionality. These guys know how to do it. So it seems like why wouldn't they? On at some point, why wouldn't they add the VR functionality in? And at the same time, I'm still kind of holding out hope that maybe this whole thing is a ruse from Phil Spencer, and VR supports something that they're planning on announcing at a later date, even if it's like WMR support or Oculus Rift support or Oculus Link support. That Xbox is powerful enough to do any of that. So maybe VR is coming, Roots, and they're just doing a very good job of keeping it under wraps.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, we live in a world where, companies do hold back stuff like that as they want their competitors to think, no, we have the whole market. Sony's got the whole market. And we've made that case before about, the rumors of Microsoft and Oculus teaming up together. So I'm not gonna say that's out the window. And from a standpoint of just logic, like it has to happen. I don't see how Xbox competes with Sony in the next generation if they don't have a VR headset. It's just one extra thing that you can do on that. And then that was our theory behind the rumors being real for the Rift S is, how do you compete with Sony's backlog of all these exclusives? But if you team up with Oculus, you get all those exclusives from day one. Bam, put them on your console. So I don't know. I'm like you. I'm not gonna write it off. I'm not gonna be rushing out to buy an Xbox. I'm really not a big Xbox person, but I would love to see more people come into VR.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't consider it to be likely. I think from the early look at both consoles, the differences in approach are clear. Xbox, Microsoft is taking a PC gamers stance when it comes to what they've decided to do. They're just beefing up their specs as high as they can and pushing it out there. Whereas Sony is focusing more on new functionality, new features, changing what the gaming experience is. So it wouldn't surprise me where a company like Xbox just tries to pump out the prettiest flat games that they can, where a company like Sony tries to push the envelope with by changing the definition of what a video game is. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that new hard drive that you were talking about, the SSD. Being
yeah,
able to get rid of load times completely, that's game breaking to me for everything, flat and VR, but especially VR, because there's nothing worse than a nice long 5 to 10 second loading screen to pull you out of immersion. Oh yeah, I'm in playing a game. I'm not in the VR, or I'm in VR, but it's not real type of thing. But so I'm kind of psyched for that.
yeah, the ability to instantly render things as you look at them. That's what they're saying. This thing is that it's that fast. Like you turn your head to look at something and pop, it renders instantly. You don't. There is no pop in. It, and when you think about the type of games that I play, where I really enjoy these dreamscapes where things change all around you on a moment's notice. And when you think about the possibility of something like that, it really just it makes me really excited. And then in addition to that, their Tempest audio, they're trying to take 3D audio to a whole new level. And as a VR gamer, you know how big, and Hellblade's a great example, probably the best example of how much power audio holds in VR. So when I hear Sony, that one of Sony's main focuses this generation is on 3D audio. Man, I'm just so excited. I can't wait. I hope that the next generation of PlayStation VR comes sooner rather than later.
Yeah, my guess is we'll be seeing one more of these trees before anybody sees that. But that's my guess anyway.
Yeah, well, we shall see. Roots, your next game is actually one of those games that I struggled with when I was picking my last game to put on my list. This was one of the games I kept coming back to. Eventually, I went with Astrobot, but I could have just as easily gone with this game. What did you pick?
Well, that's to me is surprising because I like this game, but Astrobot I think is just a little bit on that level, and I guess that's not surprising because you picked it over this one. But I picked Moss, another third-person flat platformer puzzle game, and this thing was so amazing. The cathedral and just everything, the gameplay, and when it ended, I wanted more. So to me, it was after Astrobot was already stolen by you, because I went to sleep and I woke up and saw the list was up. This one was a no-brainer for me, and I just had so much fun, and just being able to like you said, the scale of everything, and it just was done so well, and the storytelling. A game like this, it's all about the story. It has to be, and the only thing I would have loved to see more, and maybe we see it in the sequel, is a little bit more interaction with the world around you, as far as even the little things. I wanted to go into that village and check it out and stuff, but it was all static. You couldn't go in. But no, this game, I know there's going to have to make a sequel, and I can't wait for it.
Well, first of all, storytelling, absolutely the name of the game here. One of the best examples of storytelling in VR. Absolutely more personality and soul in this game than 99% of the other VR games out there. That said, there absolutely is a sequel in development for this. I can tell you definitively they've been working for some time on Moss Book 2, and I can tell you also that it's going to be a bit more open world than the first one. The first one was perfectly linear. The second one, you're going to be able to walk around and explore a little bit more.
Wow, that's cool, man. I can't wait. We got so many good games coming out.
Yeah, this one they've been working on for a while. It wouldn't surprise me if we didn't get this one this year.
Oh, wow. Man, let's put that out there. Wes predicts. No, wait, he didn't say it wouldn't surprise him. He's not predicting. Nostradamus Jr. Yeah, that's cool. I hope so.
I would consider this likely for the holiday this year. So
cool.
Quill, one of the most iconic Gen 1 characters in VR, right? I mean, when you talk about playing games from a third person perspective, you generally you come from being behind the fourth wall, right? So like the character doesn't know you're there. The thing that makes Moss unique is from the very beginning of the game, the character that you're controlling sees you and knows you're there, and you're kind of working in tandem. And I feel like more than anything, Moss is about the relationship between you and Quill. And when I think about video game characters, none of them really seem quite to have a realistic personality. I don't really think of them the same way as I think of Quill as being kind of this real living, breathing thing, even though I know, logically it's just ones and zeros.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job of making you feel like you're a part of the story, even to the point where the book is talking, as the narrator's reading is talking about you, and then you get to know Quill on a really personal basis, and then the story and just everything around it makes you feel. It kind of does a lot of like Wolves in the Walls did. It makes you feel for the character, and that's why the story is so good. Is it all incorporates everything so well that like I said, it ended, and I was like, oh, I want more. And now you just told me we're getting more, so now I'm happy. I can go back to work when we're done filming this, and I can be happy all day, Wes.
Yeah, I want to just go back and hang out in that giant forest. I mean, the production values of this game are so spot on. It's such a beautifully rendered world, and the sound effects so perfect that when you're in this giant enchanted forest, it's just so tranquil, right? I could literally just sit there and take it in forever.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
So hopefully, yeah,
you might end up sitting like Anthony, sitting on the beach of Zing for 45 minutes and not playing the game.
Hey, to each their own, brother. Yeah. If that's the way he wants to spend his time, but more power to him.
Yeah, it just shows you how good the environment can be. If it's that impressive, it's like you just feel like you're there and you just want to chill. And I think we need to slow down a little bit more and enjoy stuff like that. So yeah, if you want to hang out in the enchanted forest in this game, I'm not going to hold it against you. I might think you're a little weird, but I'll still appreciate it.
Oh, look at those deer, man. So realistic, so cool looking. Yeah, I absolutely loved everything about this game, and I'm like you. I can't wait for a sequel. Okay, so going back to my list, and when you look at my third game, of course, I'm going right back into my PSVR well, and I'm going back to one of my very favorites, a game that I still go back to all the time, even until this day. Farpoint. Farpoint is the definitive aim controller title. Sorry, Firewall fans, but it's the truth. This game does it all, Roots. It tells a story. It puts you on an alien world with a sense of presence that is unmatched. And not only that, but it's versatile. There's so many different game modes. You can play with a friend. You can play by yourself. This game just, in my opinion, just does it all.
Yeah, this is one of those games that I didn't appreciate as much as I did until I finished it. You know, I mean, I did like it, but and I even said while I was playing through it, man, this story, like it grabbed me and really intrigued me what was going on, and then some of the things that were happening, and then especially near the end, it was just phenomenal. And the fact that you can use the aim controller the entire time just made it that much better. And it was one of the ones that before I got rid of my PSVR, I wanted to finish this game. I needed to finish it because the story, I needed to see how it ended. And I don't always feel that way about everything, Wes. A lot of times it's like, okay, it's cool, but I don't care if I finish it or not. This one I had to finish. And it's not a pushover either, man. Some of these places, I don't know how many times I died, but it is definitely action packed and has a lot of strategy to it as far as beating it. And nothing looks better than the worlds that you're in, man. Even on the PlayStation VR, it's just fun. I guess you said Edge of Nowhere was the first example of a AAA game for PC. This is one of the ones for PlayStation, correct? It just was just done on such a level that it's hard to see any other game this good so far on the PlayStation VR.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my top favorite VR games. Period. Despite irregardless of platform, the aim controller implementation in this game is groundbreaking. The reason why I'm so high on the aim controller as a peripheral is because of my experience in this game. It's so profound, and it's shocking that here we sit 3 years later, Roots, and no one's been able to replicate this kind of experience with the aim controller even today.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right? I guess it's just to me is a testament to, they really wanted to this new platform. They wanted to put this banger game out there, and they spent all the time and the money in there. And even though we know VR is where it's at, it's taken some of the developers a little time to invest that much money and time into games. But this is one of the ones that I would love to play the sequel. And when I get a PlayStation 5 and a VR again, I will play the sequel when it comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for the record, since we're on the subject, I happen to know that Impulse Gear is working on something. They've been hiring like mad for quite some time now. So they're working on something, Roots. And as far as I know, this is their only game to their credit, Farpoint. So fingers crossed they're finally picking up that mantle all these years later and are going to bring us hopefully our next PS aim controller title. But yeah, storytelling great, but that's really not what makes this game. What makes this game are the action sequences, the gunfighting, the battling, and the alien atmosphere. I feel like I haven't experienced such a well done sense of being on an alien world as I have in this game. Am I forgetting something? Because when I think about being on another planet, nobody's quite nailed it like this.
No, it definitely, and they did such a good job of that, and then making you feel like you're stranded out there on this place like they are. And it just everything about this game was phenomenal for me. And where the strength for you was the action, which was really good. I can't tell you enough how the story was what pulled me through. Like, it had me thinking about it when I wasn't playing it, especially when I got to a certain point. And then some of the parts, there was a part where there was like cut scenes for a good for a while, like 10 minutes or something, because it was telling the story. And when it ended, I was bummed because I was that into the story. You know what I mean? And usually I'm the opposite. I'm like, yeah. Let me skip this. I just want to get to the action. So the story for me was just, it was just so intriguing. And then it really did a good job of making me feel for the characters, especially him, because he went through some crap with her, and she was
Yeah,
rude
that
and
poor
mean to
guy.
him. Yeah. But no, it was good. And if you haven't played this, if you have PlayStation VR and you have an aim controller and you haven't played this, I question your soul. And I don't know. I question, what are you doing? You should be playing this, man. This is worth the price of admission. And it's probably one of the only games that, there's a few games that I'm sad that I can't play right now. Like you were, even as you were trying to talk me out of getting rid of my PlayStation. You're like, man, could never do that because they're all your favorites, you know. And this is one of them. This is one of my favorites for PlayStation VR, hands down.
Yeah, this is a game that absolutely holds up to this very day, and I concur. If you have a PlayStation VR and you don't have Farpoint, man, are you missing out? This might be the best game on PlayStation VR, Roots.
Yeah, I agree. And if you're naive and you think, well, I don't need the gun, I'll just use a controller, because you could do it that way. That's what I tried, and I ended up buying the controller within like an hour of trying this. I was like, there is no way I'm playing this game, because you tried to warn me, and I didn't listen. And then I was like, I can't. It just feels weird, man. And the controller is so awesome that why would you want to?
Yeah, definitely a unique experience, the aim controller in a game like this.
Yep, absolutely.
Anyway, that was my number three, Roots. What was yours?
Mine was L.A. Noir, and I would take. I was gonna say, because I when I picked this, I kind of felt weird because it's only the case files. There's only so much, and some of the VR that's not implemented, some of the game, because I've played through the flat game or a good portion of it, isn't in it. So I would settle for a complete port of the entire game exactly as it is, but it was done so well, and there's nothing like driving around, Los Angeles in 1937 or 47. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's 47. They just did it so well, and I love detective games, and I love the way that they did this game in particular, especially the flat version of it. That I would love to see a sequel, and I would love to see what they can do with the technology now. Who doesn't want to pick up a high heel shoe as you're searching for clues? But like in the flat game, you could literally, like, you could grab the person's head and look at the different sides of it, and you could pick up arms and do all sorts of stuff, right? And I feel like, when this game came out, Rockstar did what they needed to do to get it in over, but they didn't go overboard, because it was at that time where a lot of big companies weren't investing the time and money in it. So I think a sequel would be phenomenal. Or like I said, even a complete port of the entire game. I want it. I want it now.
Well, it's interesting that you picked this one, Roots, because this is actually one that I have never played. This one's high up on my ever never ending backlog, but I've never actually went into this one. I can definitely see that the production value is there, and what this game really means to me, having not played it, why this is important to me is the fact that this is a VR game, a legit VR game from Rockstar Games. And any of you out there already know Rockstar Games is who brought us Grand Theft Auto. And Grand Theft Auto VR, an official Grand Theft Auto VR, in my opinion, is the holy grail. That's what we're looking for. That's what we need. That if I could pick a game, any game I want to come to VR, it would probably be Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, and I think it's possible for them to make for maybe the next one, or with the success of the mod that people have done, which isn't perfect, but it does do really well in making you feel like you're in that world. And then already have done this, I could see them in the future, if VR is deemed big enough for them, of giving it a port, or putting it out in VR as a alongside for number 6. So yeah, I agree. Rockstar definitely is a very good developer, and I would love to see this game in VR, or at least the sequel.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where it holds importance to me because obviously, if they nailed L.A. Noir, they can nail their other titles as well. So that's what L.A. Noir really means to me as a VR game. But that said, again, I've said it many times. One of my favorite things to do in VR is to travel back in time,
Mm.
and I'm kind of surprised I haven't gone into this one yet because this is that period that I like to go back to, the 40s and 50s. That's what I really enjoy. Seeing what it felt like to be in that world before technology.
And you know what's ironic about this? This has some of the best driving in VR as far as the way it feels, than almost any other game I've played. So it's very bizarre. Like when I play the flat version, I'm always telling, like, if you always have a detective buddy, I always tell him to drive. I don't want to drive, and then they'll drive you, and I can just chill. In this one, I wanted to drive because it just was so much fun, and even just getting out and walking around the city and checking things out, it was really cool. And they went to the minute details of even having trolley cars, and just everything about it was really cool. And I think you would like it, even just the way you question people and the way you can you find clues, and then they'll be like, oh no, I didn't do this, and you're like, oh yeah, well, what about this? And then they're like, whoa, okay, they change their tune. Or if you're wrong, they'll start getting really lippy with you, and you want to punch them, but you can't. So
Well, that's the thing, Roots. Yes, you can.
yeah, punch them.
I will. I'll try anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so that's going to bring us to my fourth pick, and this one is the one I was talking about when I said that it's pretty much impossible that we're ever going to see a sequel to this game. But that's kind of the reason why I had to put it on my list, is because it's impossible, and I love it so much. Here They Lie is probably the most unique experience that I've ever had in a video game. Um, it's genre bending. It's hard to put a genre in it. The easy thing to do is to call it a horror game, but it's really not. It's not, I mean, there's some scary stuff in it, but it's more like a piece of dark artwork, and it really it turns the microscope or telescope back around and takes a real look at the nature of people and human beings on this earth, and really that's what it is, or at least that's how I took it. But like any great piece of art, the meaning really is in the eye of the beholder. So I imagine everyone who plays this is going to take something different from it, right?
Yeah, but I would submit that most people, or if not everybody, is gonna enjoy it to some extent. Like even Mamefan was saying, he was blown away with just how weird this was. And I've said many a times, and I'll say it again: watching somebody getting the crap beat out of them, and then watching somebody stop it like they're concerned, and then as the other person leaves, they start kicking the crap out of that person. The things that I saw in this game dropped my jaw. I was like, what is going on? Like you said, it shows you different aspects of humanity, or at least in the eyes of the person that created it. And I question what's in their head, Wes, because there's some messed up stuff. And I would submit that you're right. It would be very difficult, not impossible, be very difficult to create the same game without the same team. But sometimes you could have somebody that's even more demented or dark, and it could be 10 times better, right?
Well, that's true. That's true because this could be one of these cases where the people who originally made the game said, what do you mean sequel? That's done. That's it. We're done. We're on to something else. Um, and to be quite honest, when I say I want a sequel to this game, it's not because I want a continuation of any part of the story or any part of anything that's going on in this game. I just want more. I want another example of something like this because it's so enjoyable. It's so unique and thought provoking. It's so surreal and scary and vulgar. And I mean, just everything. it's intense. Uh, and every time I think about it, it makes me want to go back and play it again. And every time I play it, I play through it. So, uh, yeah, I just want something else like this. It doesn't have to be a direct sequel. I just wish they would get that team back together and have them make another piece of art, something in the same tone as this.
Yeah, me too. Now, is there any part of you that feels like outside of this character here, we're in the post-coronavirus world where everybody's got masks on, and that's what all those. At some point, we're gonna see some weird masks, Wes. I think they're coming, but no, I don't know. I really, like I said, I really enjoyed this game, and it's up there on my list of games that I would love to see ported over to PC just to see it super sampled and just go through it again. But even on the PlayStation VR, it looks phenomenal.
Yeah, it's
So,
crazy how sharp and detailed it is, right? I mean, it's all black and white, or mostly. If you see color in this game, you know you're looking at something significant. And it was cool how they did that. But yeah, it's one of the best things about it. It's just how sharp it is and how detailed everything is. And back to what we were saying about in L.A. Noire, the world you're in is this kind of 1950s world. And I mean, you see all these old school like telephones and you know all this old plumbing and radiator work and just everything looks like it used to look. And
mm,
that was another one of my favorite things about the game.
yeah, me too. It definitely makes you feel like you're going back in time. And like you said, I'm a big Back to the Future fan, so I love traveling in time. Just need to get a flux capacitor, and I'm ready to go, Wes.
Yeah, so definitely an underrated game. Everyone who plays it knows what we're talking about, but the sad truth is, Fruits, most people haven't played this game.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I guess maybe if they watched the show, or only reason I was introduced to it because of you. So it's another reason to watch Virtual Strangers, so Wes can show you all these weird, freaky games that are amazing. Because I wouldn't have never even known about it. So
One of my very first games I ever played in VR, Roots.
wow.
The PlayStation Demo Disc Volume One had a section from Here They Lie in it, but it wasn't like from the beginning. It was from the middle of the game. So it was like that part where you go down the stairs and then like the floor turns to blood, and there's that big empty picture on the wall, and there's nothing in the picture, and then there's just a single door. The door's locked, right? So you can't get through the door, and then when you turn back around, the picture that was blank, now off in the distance you see this shadowy figure standing there.
Mm,
And every time you turn your head and look back at the picture, the shadowy figure is getting closer and closer and closer. And I'm not going to spoil what happens, but yeah, there's a free demo of this available. If you'll go back to PlayStation Demo Disc Volume 1, you can download it now, and you'll see what I'm talking about with this game. Now, that's a particularly terrifying section of the game, but you'll kind of get a feel for how the game looks and sounds and feels. So I recommend it to anyone who has a PlayStation VR. You can check it out for free. So
yeah, well, who doesn't love free? That's creepy as hell, though. I don't know if I want to see some shadow coming towards me, but as long as it's okay, it's not real. But yeah, no, this is definitely worth playing for sure.
now that's what you ought to remember with VR horror games is it's not real, bro. It's not.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyway, Roots, I found your fourth pick very interesting. Why don't you tell the people what you picked?
All right. Well, I was looking through my list and I came across this game, and interestingly enough, both of these games we talked about with Justin, right? And this game is Pinball FX2. And the reason why I think part of the reason why you think it's interesting is because there already is a sequel out there. I just want the sequel, the third one, to be brought to VR because it has every version of all these different games out there that exist in real life. I mean, it's like this on crack. There's just, if you think of a game, and even the ones that are out there today in real life, you can get it. And in that Pinball FX3, I would settle for a fourth one or whatever. But I just really enjoyed this game, and there's something about the whole atmosphere changing around you, and having ET floating stuff, and Jaws is in the water, and I don't know, man, it's really cool.
Yeah, again, here another backlog title for me, one that I haven't played, but interesting because not only am I, did I grow up playing pinball, but a lot of the franchises that I'm fans of have tables in pinball effects too. Um, at the same time as all of that, I already know that, looking at smaller miniaturized things in VR really makes the 3D effect pop. I know this from playing other games. So I bet that when you get really close down and look into this, into these pinball tables, the 3D effect's probably just phenomenal, isn't it?
It's really cool. And then what's cool is like the different things going on in the game, like the Jaws. There's a point where you hit a certain place, and then it like brings the guy out to the pier, and he's doing something out there, or you trigger something in The Walking Dead with Clem, and I can't remember what that guy's name is. But they come out and they start kicking the soccer ball back and forth, and then there's zombies walking up and down the street, and it just adds that extra element. And then the fact that it brings in the stuff around you as well as you're looking around, and if you pick Jaws, there's water, you're on a pier, and every once in a while a shark will come out and start attacking, and it's just really cool. And it just, like I said, if you like pinball, it adds to that feeling of immersion, and you're playing the game, but you're also there in that world. The DeLorean's driving around. I don't know. I just think it's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool way to keep uh, this form of art alive. Pinball tables aren't going to be around forever. This is going to become increasingly become more and more a niche thing. So it's kind of cool that at least even if these things disappear off the face of the earth and never are mass produced again, that they're going to be at least digitally documented so people can come in and see what this game was that people used to play 50, 100 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. No, what's cool about the games that really exist, because even Justin was saying in the third one that some of them are so good compared, like the replicas of the ones that exist in real life, that if the physics are as good as they are in real life, he would get rid of his real pinball tables to have these, because there is that added extra bit to it. So, hopefully they'll bring the third one into VR. It already exists, and it's got Star Wars tables. It's got, you think of like you said, a series of movies or whatever. It's got them out there, and so that's what's cool about it.
Yeah, it sounds cool, and damn it, Roots. There's too many games for me to play, bro. Too
Yeah,
many games for me to
you got a
play.
good
And
backlog.
I've got a great backlog, and the problem is that there's so much cool shit coming out every week now that there's just no hope, brother. There's no hope.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe you just need to quit your job and just play VR.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And
Yeah.
if you would like to make that dream a possibility, just scroll down to our description and you will see a link to our Patreon on there. And if you'd like to support our channel, in all seriousness, we know we're not ever going to be able to play VR for a living, but you can help our channel to grow. You can help grow our community by supporting us on Patreon.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Roots, it comes down to this. My top choice, my number one pick, if you will, for the Gen 1 title that I most want a sequel to. And as if we didn't all already know what I'm going to say here, I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. Resident Evil 7. I still think it's my favorite game, Roots. I said Saints and Sinners when Saints and Sinners came out, and then I said Half-Life Alyx when Half-Life Alyx came out. But the fact of the matter is, nothing quite brings me back the way Resident Evil 7 does, and nothing no video game has ever quite affected me so greatly on a physical level that this game does. It absolutely scares the wits out of you, doesn't it?
Yeah, dude, Jack, man. Like even Mamefan was saying the other day when we were playing Grip, he was talking about my playthrough, or the playthrough that I did do of this, and just my reactions to where Like I would be like talking smack to Jack legitimately, and then all of a sudden he gets up and starts attacking me, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and I'm running away, and I've never felt the same feelings inside me playing a video game. And the way that they did this, outside the box of everything, like, and I know I won't ruin it for anybody that hasn't seen it, but the videotape and just everything, man. Like there's moments where I was like, "What is going on?" It blew me away. And I said this last week. It's one of the games that I really, really, really want to come to PCVR, and everyone keeps trying to crap all over my Dream West. But and I know realistically it's probably not coming. Drillo, you're right. But I'm hoping you're wrong.
And yeah, I mean, this game is. I've went on about this so many times on our channel. I don't really want this to turn into that again. But this game is just a masterpiece. Everything about it is perfect. I mean, other than the fact that there's no motion controller support, everything else is perfect. The environments are beautiful and well designed. The sound, uh, just absolutely creepy. The storytelling, the progression of the game, just everything. It all gels together to it comes together into the most terrifying video game experience I've ever had.
Yeah, me too. I don't like those tar baby guys either. They really, really.
And the great thing about having this be my very top pick on my list for a sequel is, rumor has it, Roots, that Part 8 is in development and it will support PlayStation VR once again. So I hope that those rumors do indeed prove to be true because, man, I just love this game so much.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, Roots, that brings us to your top pick. Quite an interesting one, and one I wrestled with for a long time. But I ended up not putting it on my list, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. Why don't you go ahead and let the world know what your top choice is for VR sequel?
All right. Well, I kind of struggle with it myself too, but just from the standpoint of how good it was, that the gameplay, it was unique. The dialogue, just like everything else these people put out, is just ridiculously crazy and funny. I picked Trover Saves the Universe, and who doesn't want to be a dirty Cheropian? And it's just one of those games that, from the beginning that I played, and I haven't even finished it. I need to finish this game. It's on my backlog. I enjoyed every minute of it, and it was just so unique, and the way they incorporated the controller into it was just really cool.
Yeah, I agree. This is absolutely one of the best games in VR. Probably the funniest from a comedy standpoint. I probably laughed harder at this than I have any Hollywood comedy over the last 15 years. I mean, I busted my gut laughing at this game. And I expected that coming into it. What I didn't expect coming into it is just what a quality platforming video game that they put together here. This is a good game. Without the comedy, this would be fun to play. With the comedy, it makes it one of the very best in VR. Now, what you just said really points to the reason why I didn't put it on my list. I haven't finished it either.
Hmm.
And I don't know how I could come out here and seriously say this is one of my top, wish list for a sequel when I haven't even gone through and finished all the content that they've given us yet. What the hell's wrong with us, Roots? Why didn't we finish this one?
I don't know. Well, I know why I didn't finish it, because somehow I deleted my save and I had to start back over. And then by the time I got to the exact same point, because I was playing it for one of the shows we were talking about, it was several hours, and I was like, like I just got to that point, probably stopped at the same place. I don't know, but I'm saying I'm not. I know why you didn't finish it, because you go after every baby out there, and that's going to take some time, man, trying to find all those
Hey, man,
babies.
Trevor appreciates you getting those green power babies, bro.
Yeah, he does actually. Well, and there's supposed to be some benefits to it, so I should probably do that. But yeah, no, that's why I kind of struggled with it as well. I started thinking, okay, well, you haven't even finished this. How could you want a sequel? And then I thought, well, I enjoy it so much. I don't care if I finished it or not. I want another one, so I can not finish that one too, Wes.
Yeah, me too. And
Yeah.
I think that that's highly likely. I feel like a game like this, they wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel for. They would just have to craft a new story, The game could look and play identically to this one, and just have some new jokes and a new story, and we're good to go.
You know what I would like, and I was telling this customer this last week when I was talking about this game. I said when I played, because I told him there was a Rick and Morty game, and he was asking me how it was, and I said, I said you were Clone Morty and stuff, and I said the only thing that I wished they had was I wanted to go on it. Like they took off and they went on their adventure and they left me there, and I wanted to be in the adventure, and I feel like this game is the adventure that I would have had in Rick and Morty. So maybe they bring the worlds together. Wouldn't that be cool if you could be Trover, but something happened to Morty and you go with Rick? Or who knows what, man? They could bring the two worlds together in such a way it'd be really, really cool. And I think there will be a sequel as successful as this one was. And like you said, they don't have to reinvent the wheel. I just think could be really cool.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be shocked if they did cross it over with Rick and Morty. These people are just that off the wall, right?
Yeah. Well, if you've ever watched Rick and Morty, that's why we've even said with this game, they must have just ad-libbed half of it, because it's just so ridiculous, some of the things that they're saying, and you're going through and you're hearing this and you're like, did he just say whatever he said? And you're like, oh yeah, they just said that. It's just crazy.
Yeah, the characters talk nonstop in it, and they react to what you're doing. I mean, it's like almost like they're real. You know what I mean? That they say so many different things. I got to imagine that half of the development time for this game was voice acting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, when I beat up that old man in the wheelchair, that was one of my favorite parts, because I didn't stop, and a lot of people stopped, and I was like, oh my God, this is the way that it went. And then as I'm looking around, and Trover's like, hey, we need to go. Like, he's telling me, let's get out of here. You just did something you shouldn't have done. Let's go.
You just killed a guy.
Yeah.
We need to get the hell out of here.
It was just really cool, and I really enjoyed it. This is one of the games that I feel like everybody should play. It's on every platform. I guess it's not on Quest, but hopefully it'll come to Quest someday. I don't know. So right now,
how tripped out would that be? Then the masses of people that are coming into VR could experience this.
Yeah, and it's not like the gameplay would be anything. I think it could do Quest. So I don't see why not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people can play it on PlayStation VR. I mean, you can play it flat as well as VR. So,
same thing with PC too, right?
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, that's going to wrap us up there, man. What a list! If we get nothing but these 10 sequels next year, Roots, I feel like it's going to be a successful year, right?
Yeah, those are all 10 amazing titles in their own rights, and the sequels should be as amazing, if not better.
So what's your top 5? If you could pick any 5 pre-Asgard's Wrath VR titles that you could get sequels to, what would they be? Be sure to let us know down in the comments below. And if you've liked this video, give us a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. And don't forget that notification bell to stay up with all of our content here on Virtual Strangers.
Yeah, also join the Discord so that you can grip it up with us, man. We need more grip players. And
absolutely, we've almost got a full lobby with grip. So we just need 4 or 5 more people, and it'll be full, right?
Yeah, actually only a couple. You're this close to missing out on that slot. No, we'll slot you in somehow. But yeah, it's definitely one of the coolest things about the Discord for me is at the community wanting to play with each other, because that was one of the reasons that I was bummed out in VR to begin with. When I first got it, it was like, I don't have anybody to play these games with, because nobody I knew played. And it's cool. You can play games with strangers, but there's nothing like playing with your friends, right?
You can play games with strangers, but there's nothing like playing with virtual strangers.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, Grip, a really amazing game. Very easy to pick up, surprisingly easy to pick up. I went in before I got on with you guys, and I did the tutorial. I raced 3 races, single player, and then I went in to this game where you guys have been playing for weeks now, and that was my first day, my first time in the game, and I was competitive with everybody in there. I never won, but I landed 5th through 2nd place quite a bit during the day yesterday. So that should tell you something about how easy this game is to pick up.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just a ton of fun.
My shining
Super fast and chaotic.
my shining moment was the last race when I won. And I was like, yes, because I always want to win at least one, just give me one win. And then I can feel like, because the last time I played, I think I was just happy to not be beat by the bots. So
yeah, that was cool. You were number 1 and I was number 2.
Yeah.
And I felt like we represented our channel well.
that's right.
Anyway, with that said, friends, we'd like to thank you again for watching. And for Roots, I'm Wes. We'll see you next week, friends. Oh, no, we will see you in a couple days.
Oh, yeah.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy.